I've been asked a few times if I was starting again, what would I do differently? Well, some days everything. I'd do something else altogether. But seriously, the main thing I would probably do is I would stick to one type of hive. I started with the Smiths, the one on top, but I currently run with two types. And the other one is the Langstroth, the one below. I always felt the Smith was too small and hampered honey production. That's just a comparison of the brood frames. Smaller Smith on the left, Langstroth on the right. The Smith hive with 11 frames has about 50,000 of those cells in each brood box. And the Langstroth with the larger frame, only 10 in a box, but that has over 61,000. So as I say, there's about 20% difference in capacity between each hive. And so in 1984, I bought 8 of the bigger Langstroths, thinking they would increase honey production. I honestly now think that hive size is nowhere near as important as overall management. This experiment has carried on for nearly 40 years. Madness, really. The KISS principle, keep it simple, stupid, should have applied, and I should have stuck to one hive type. Will I ever learn? I've also been asked to show some detail of the Smith hive I use. So, the 11 frames don't fill the box. You're left with a gap at one end. You can shove them all across and leave an equal gap at either end. But what happens then is that the outside of the outside combs, the bees will extend the comb, widen it, and inevitably stick a lot of brace comb on the side walls of the hive. They do that anyway, but it seems to be far worse with a big gap like that. So what I do is I keep all the combs over to one side of the hive, like so, and then insert a dummy board. I have various designs of dummy boards. This one's simply a bit of plywood, cut to shape, with the lugs left on. I stick a couple of bits of wood on one side to act as a spacer to maintain the bee space. On the other side, I have staples knocked in, again to try and maintain some sort of bee space. And then the metal on top is a bead, a plastering bead, skin bead, wrapped around the top of the plywood, nailed onto it, just to add some strength to these lugs on the end here. Now, I think without that they could snap off these. I have since made some other dummy boards with thicker plywood and haven't bothered with the skin bead, and they seem to work okay. They're probably better anyway. These being thin plywood can warp and bend. That one's maybe bent a little bit, but some of them bend badly. So if common sense had prevailed and I'd have used just one hive only, which one would I have chosen? If I was asked 7 or 8 years ago, I would say the Langstroth, without doubt. I'll go even further and use just one size box, the deep. It would simplify and streamline operations no end. The issue there is that one of these deep boxes full of honey weighs about 90 pounds, 40 kilograms. That's okay if you're only lifting a few. What if you have hundreds? I use 3 sizes of Langstroth boxes, a further unnecessary complication, I know, but it has taught me something. I've just put the 3 different size Langstroth boxes on a pallet, just so we can see the difference between them. So, starting from the left, we have our deep box. I use them solely for brood boxes for the queen to lay in. I never use them for honey production. And then we have what we call the medium one, medium super. They're used for honey production, for honey storage, etc. And then we have the shallow, the one I use predominantly. And I've often read in American bee literature that they have a sort of saying, a phrase that a young person starts out with deeps, a middle-aged person moves on to mediums, and the old person gets on with the shallows. And it's absolutely right. There is some truth in that. I understand that. This was just another experiment, really. I mean, predominantly I run the ones on the right, the shallow ones, the mediums as they're called on the left. There's still quite a few of them, but it's an unnecessary complication. And in fact, when we're extracting, it's very easy to drop a shallow frame into a deep box once they've been extracted and not know you've done it. Hence all the black marks on the deeper frames. You wouldn't get a deeper one into a shallow box, you'd stand proud, but it's dead easy to drop one of those into there. So yeah, just crackers, really, complete madness. Just no need to have complicated things so much. To use solely these deep boxes, I want the best lifting and handling equipment possible, and I think it's probably too late in the day for me to be making that kind of investment. I may well end up doing what another bee farmer in Scotland did when he got to about my age, sold the bigger hives, kept the smaller ones. Isn't it funny how things work out? Speaking of lifting and handling equipment, some of my materials handling equipment is simple to say the least. One of my earliest improvements involved building these small pallets suitable for use with a sack truck. I've tried an assortment of weird and wonderful lifting equipment and hive barrows. Here's one example. Two consecutive heather harvests, I did use this contraption to lift supers up off hives and then place a clear board back under and lower the boxes back on. But it was a two-man job, and the man operating the barrow has to be extremely strong. We were lifting up to 4 full supers at a go. The pallets I use for stacking the honey boxes on have a solid floor and are homemade to my dimensions. 4 stacks of Langstroth here, completely filling the pallet. And here with 4 stacks of the smaller Smiths with a space left at each end. And we can, if we really have to, put a mixed load on. Far easier in many ways to use commercially available pallets and simply nail a bit of plywood on top of them. However, they're bigger than's required, and it can make a massive difference to how many pallets you can get on a pickup or on a trailer. So the made to measure pallets are far more efficient that way. Set the homemade pallet on top of a commercially available one here, level at that end and up this side. So the commercially available one is that much longer than needed and that much wider. The difference is quite amazing really when you come to load a vehicle. I can at a pinch get 4 of those pallets on my pickup. I can only get 2 of the standard pallets on the same vehicle. Once we've palletised our operation, we have the benefit of being able to use equipment such as this. And better still, this. Still an awful lot of lifting and carrying to do out in the field, but at least once we get back to the shed, we can ease things considerably with the help of this. And speaking of field work, this bit of kit does help with loading hives. Not suitable for taking honey boxes on and off, but it is handy when it comes to moving the bees. If I was starting again, I wouldn't use these manly honey frames in my honey boxes. They're a good strong frame, but they do have one failing. The wide end bars mean the comb isn't built beyond these bars, and therefore I think the combs can't be uncapped mechanically. If you know differently, please let me know in the comments. Thank you. And finally, nothing to do with bees. This is on one of the regular walks I take with the dog, and I just like it. If you haven't done already, please click like and subscribe. Thank you. We'll see you later.